Good afternoon, Nick. It's been a little while since we last spoke, so looking forward to hearing the latest developments of Meadow. And I've certainly seen a couple of recent press releases, new launches. It seems like an exciting time, and there's no room for breath.
That's it. No, thanks for having me back. A lot's been happening. Looking forward to updating you and bring you up to speed with everything at Meadow.
Absolutely. I think a nice place to start is we received the press release yesterday in terms of the new aluminium refill system. So if you can just provide a brief bit of background behind that technology, and then we can then deep dive into some of the more technical elements. But I think in terms of the new launches, that's a nice place to begin.
We just released SleeveLock. So Meadow Capsule SleeveLock is the second piece of technology that we've launched. It sort of follows the same platform as the Meadow Capsule system that we launched previously to the market, that you'll see different retailers with body wash, shampoos, etc. And we've moved that technology, still based on the Meadow Capsule Prefill, which is a beverage can platform with our new proprietary end. So the Meadow Capsule Prefill, which you usually open with a dispenser and use at home in your shower or on your countertop, we've now launched it for primarily the hospitality space, but really wall-mounted space. So we call it the Meadow Capsule Sleeve Lock because it locks to the wall. That's important in hotel and different hospitality settings, of course, because there's safety concerns, there's theft concerns, but also there's a great convenience element, which means people can have the quick changeover time and the other convenience elements of refill, and in this case, in-room refill, safe for a hotel. They get all the benefits of the Meadow Capsule system in a new setting.
That's fantastic. So it seems like a bit of a shift from strictly the B2C to the B2B market.
We've definitely always been intrigued by that space. I think there's a lot of answers, right? We're a technology company and we're always trying to innovate into new spaces. We've spent a lot of time refining the Meadow Capsule system, and we launched it, as I just said before, into primarily a shower environment because of all the consumer benefits and convenience, the sustainability elements, and the fun factor of the Meadow Capsule system we know is really well received in people's homes. And we wanted to bring that into other spaces. And we continue to do that looking forward, with our technology roadmap, always on the lookout for new applications of the Meadow Capsule technology, but also new contexts for it to live in. And the hospitality sector, it's unique in that, as you say, it's a B2B move. And it's also sort of a different customer, of course, and it's also different stakeholders. So at Meadow, we try to engage with the end users as much as possible whenever we test a new technology. And when launching Meadow Capsule, that meant working with people, doing in-home testing, having them trial products in their bathroom and in their kitchen and under their sink. When it came to Meadow Capsule Sleeve Lock, our testing was with a different set of people. We knew that the end user, the hotel guest, was probably going to experience something pretty similar to what they do today. They walk into a bathroom, they take a shower, and they pump soap out of a wall-mounted dispenser. That user experience is pretty unchanged. And that was really quite deliberate because while we like to think our technology is pretty breakthrough, there's also a benefit to being very familiar. You go to a hotel, you don't want to be trained on a new piece of technology when it comes to the simple routine things that you expect from a hotel. So the people that we engage with to sort of validate and test and iterate with when it comes to hotels are going to be the people who clean the hotel rooms, the managers who have to understand the best way to resource refill. There was the hotels themselves who have a big push, like everybody, to do what they can in terms of sustainability. And there was also different areas that they want to move forward with. They know that hotel guests expect, sustainability, cleanliness, safety when it comes to things like the shower. So that's really who we spent all of our time with when it came to developing the sleeve lock. And what we learned through working with them is that in-room refill is really not as straightforward as one would think. Sometimes it's asking a lot of the staff to carry around big bottles of soap that they have to decant. Using funnels, they have to disassemble things from the wall. And other systems that are able to give refill to rooms might, have a trade-off when it comes to waste. The easiest thing for a staff member might be to pull it off a wall and throw it away. And that means they don't have to refill it in room, but it also means there's potentially a trade-off when it comes to sustainability and recyclability. So we focused a lot of our time on how can we deliver something to benefit, of course, the guest, but really the hotel themselves and the staff members who are in charge of making sure that the room is clean. And that's where we spent a lot of our time making sure that it's quick to change over, in as little as 20 seconds, that it doesn't spill, that it doesn't get contaminated. And it's when it's being used, the guests are assured that it hasn't been tampered with and it delivers the experience they're looking for.
Excellent. No, that makes perfect sense. And there's the interesting you mentioned about the theft side of things. That's something I hadn't even considered with this. It's amazing what goes into some of these new initiatives in terms of sustainability, things like that.
You'd be surprised what can go missing. I think, I've heard stories of plants going missing and photographs of ships and hallways. So yeah, things do end up going on a walk.
We interrupt this episode for a brief segment from our sponsors, PPG.
Packaging coatings from PPG draw on our company's 140-year history of innovation. We never stop improving our solutions to meet the evolving needs of can makers and the marketplace. That spirit of innovation results in technology like the cradle-to-cradle platinum-rated PPG Innovel Pro. PPG Innovel Pro is the latest enhancement to the world's #1 non-BPA beverage can coating. It still doesn't use any bisphenol ingredients, but experienced can makers report that it now sprays like an epoxy. Follow PPG Packaging Coatings on LinkedIn or visit packagingcoatings.com to learn more about why PPG is the coatings partner for can making excellence.
One interesting side of things that I'm doing a bit of research in terms of waste design problem. You mentioned that it's a design problem rather than necessarily an issue for the consumer in terms of recycling. So I found that really interesting because I'm a kind of a believer in individual responsibility and that individual consumers perhaps need to take a bit of responsibility. But you guys at Meadow seem to take a bit of a different view that consumers will make the sound decision if you give them the opportunity. If a product or the recycling opportunities are there, then they'll make the right decision. So it's an interesting debate and one I wanted to learn a little bit more about your views in more detail.
I think I agree. We haven't met any brands or consumers or retailers that don't want to make the same decisions. It seems everybody's pretty united on this. I think our point of view when it comes to this being a design problem is that the customers are absolutely ready and willing, and they want to do the right thing. And I agree with you that when it comes to individual responsibility, that really matters most. But it seems that people do want to do their bit. I think we stop short of expecting that people will sacrifice convenience or pay more to do the right thing. Unfortunately, I think we're not there yet, but we know that they want to do the right thing, and we just want to make sure that they can afford to do it and that it doesn't ask more of them. In fact, we would love for them to get more out of the experience and make it even more convenient while doing the right thing. The reason we like to say it's a design problem is that's probably where the responsibility does come onto the brand owners and the retailers to make sure that they're giving the right choices to the consumers, because at the end of the day, most people are only faced with access to a few choices in a retailer environment. And then I suppose if you go one step before, that comes down to the design of the products themselves to make sure that the products that are getting to shelf have been designed in a way that make a lot of those choices are the correct choices, because they're permanent choices, at least temporarily permanent.
No, that's great. That certainly makes sense. You mentioned there's a couple of things there I wanted to just touch upon. You said about the affordability side of things. Has that been something you've been mindful of as a company? I know with the last 3 or 4 years for consumers, cost of living pressures, inflationary pressures, certainly in Europe and North America, you only have to do your grocery bill every week and prices seem to be increasing at a rapid pace and wages haven't caught up. So in terms of then purchasing decisions during those sort of periods, consumers will go for the cheaper option, the budget option, as opposed to kind of a premium product. I know we talked about sustainability, and consumers do like that premium feel. In the beverage can space, that's very much apparent, where premiumization is definitely a hot trend. But has that been a concern for you in terms of kind of that cost, and whether consumers will pay for a premium product, and then as a result in the B2B sphere, whether brands will take a view that this is actually something that they want to invest in as well?
It's a big focus of ours, and I think, when we mentioned the in-home testing we do when we engage with end users to see how this fits into their life. It was very clear to us really early that this needs to win on convenience, win on cost, and we want it to be the best sustainable option. But again, that's not what we want to lead with. And I think it's unfair for us to expect, or anyone to expect, that people are going to have to pay to do the right thing. So for us, cost, convenience, ease of use, whether that's to be financially affordable or whether it's to be inclusive when it comes to the way people can interact with products from a grip strength point of view, from a sightedness point of view. It's really important that no one is sort of priced out or designed out of making sustainable choices. So that's very important to us, and we do spend a lot of time there. I would say that where we're lucky and where we shouldn't take too much credit is the beverage can has done a lot of that for us. We didn't invent the beverage can. We just think it's fantastic and way too good to be used just for beverage. And we can't take credit for the circularity, the infrastructure that's in place, and the efficiencies that the industry has done over the last however many, let's say 100 years, to make that an affordable, incredibly efficient vessel. So we're really, I suppose, using that to our advantage. And when you ask, has it been the driving force for us, I would say that's really one of the reasons we picked the can in the beginning, is because it has such incredible sustainability metrics, but such incredible efficiency metrics, such incredible cost metrics. And that isn't just in the price of the unit, but it's the fillers save money because they're throwing away less units because of inefficiencies. There's logistics savings. And then, of course, there's the inherent value of the material when it's finished, and it maintains a value when it comes to the recycling infrastructure. So I want to say, yes, absolutely, it's been key to us, but we also want to give credit where credit due and say that's largely due to the fantastic developments that the can industry has made over the last, I don't know how many years, you probably know better than me. Should we say over the last 100 years?
Absolutely. You're preaching to the converted here, but yeah, totally to subscribe to that view. And I think being able to bring something new to the table in terms of the technology in what is a very traditional industry is, I think that's why this appeals so much. So no, congratulations to you and the Meadow team here. I think it's really impressive what you're achieving, and that's been recognised recently with Fast Company stating that you're one of the world's most innovative companies. So congratulations for that accolade, and that must bring you some great joy that that's been the case. And that's one question I wanted to ask is, you're growing very fast, innovating. Does that also bring with it anxieties? We're designers by heart. We just want to innovate, but then obviously the business mechanics and how companies can grow at speed. So does that both worry and excite you? And then also, is it a case of, because you are a kind of by heart engineers, and do you enjoy the business element of things as well? Or do you prefer kind of being behind the scenes in a production facility, in a lab, and the mechanics of business can be a bit intimidating? Always kind of these conversations like to dig in a little bit more behind the scenes about kind of what makes a company tick.
Yeah, I mean, we can't just by our culture and our nature turn off the addiction to developing this technology and imagining what can be done with it. There's so many different categories. There's so many different geographies. There's so many different use cases. Again, the can has been really celebrated as a beverage vessel, but once you look at what it could be, there's no end to the possibilities. But with that, as you say, there's a lot of consequences. We can't do everything at once. We are a startup. There's limited time and limited resources. So it means we have to be pretty selective with where we focus our efforts. It took quite a lot of effort and time and analysis to launch SleeveLock and to make sure that it was going to be successful and deliver the value that we think it will to the market. The other thing about cans and beverage making, while, we just touched on all of the fantastic possibilities and the fantastic metrics that comes with a beverage can, it is also staggering the scale at which the beverage can industry works and the speeds at which these machines work. And to unlock the value of the can, it does need to be in those volumes. That is what it's good at. It's really good at scaling in huge, huge volumes. That's where the can really wins. So it is intimidating, but I think that's what we got into when we got into the beverage can. It's not a niche product that is cute and novel and different. This is a beverage can which is designed to scale and future-proof the scalability of some of the biggest brands in the world. That is sort of, I think, what knowingly we got ourselves into, and that's why we picked the can. But with that, as you say, you have to accept scary volumes, scary speeds, and scary quantities of production, which is also why we try to take a pause and take a lot of care with the decision-making, because a lot of the problems that we're trying to address, we feel, have been made also with the consequences of massive scale, massive production, and massive wastage. So we love the scale. We get intimidated by the scale, but I think we know exactly what we signed up for when we decided to use this platform.
Absolutely. And just for our listeners, a bit of context, Ball Corporation are a minority investor as well. So that, I assume, is reflected in the companies that you're partnering with, the likes of Ball and Novelis, DRT as well, that you're only working with household names within this space as well. And that's reflected in the excellence that you're looking for.
Great point. I think we need to work with the best of the best when it comes to this, because these things are made so precisely, so fast, and in such high volume, that when it comes to changing anything in that incredibly fast-moving infrastructure that's so optimized, and the optimization is what we love about it. The wall thicknesses are so thin, the efficiencies and the production efficiencies are so incredibly precise that to change anything takes a lot of care and precision. And, Ball Corp, as being the largest can maker in the world, when it comes to scaling products in this space, that's what they do for a living. That's what they're great at. When it comes to material optimization and designing materials that have the highest level of recycled content, those are things, again, the industry's been working on for a long time, and the likes of Novelis working hard to deliver the highest levels of recycled content to the market. So when it comes to this being a design problem, it's the likes of Novelis who's able to design in extremely high levels of recycled content to make beverage cans more and more efficient when it comes to sustainability. And then DRT, when it comes to the precision and the historical, expertise that they have, right? The inventors of the pull tab as we know it. That's really the type of partner we need to make any kind of change to an end. So we've been really lucky to keep great company when it comes to making any change, let alone sort of changes to things like the can end. And we've been able to do it thanks entirely to those great partners.
That's great. And you mentioned sustainability there. I know sustainability has been at the heart of the narrative of pretty much every company within the packaging sector for the last decade or so. And it's been interesting to note that administrations around the world seem to be reining back a little bit on sustainability. So I just wondered, is in terms of Meadow yourself, is that a trend that concerns you a little bit? I know you said that recently you did a consumer trial in the UK, and you mentioned that overwhelmingly the participants favoured your solution over plastic packaging, which is heartening to hear. So do you think sustainability is still front and centre in importance for consumers?
It's a top area for us, and we focus a lot on it. I think that it's important for us that whether the data shows that people are more or less concerned or trending on sustainability, I think it's important for us that our technology addresses the things that we know really will never change, cost effectiveness, ease of use, convenience. Those are things that we really want to pay very close attention to, because those really never go out of fashion. So we want to make sure that the products that are made they work well, they are enjoyable to use, and they deliver the user experience that consumers want. And when it comes to sustainability, that's back to our role as it being a design problem. We make sure that with ourselves and with our partners that we continue to innovate all the time to make the product better and better. I think of sustainability a little bit like safety. I think no one would want to stop making products safer to use. And I almost feel like sustainability is at that level now. It's so familiar as a term that it's sort of, would any designer, would any engineer, would any brand want to put a product that wasn't safe on the market? I think they wouldn't, but I'm not sure they would lead with to a consumer saying, this is extra safe or it's even safer than before. I think it's sort of expected now from consumers that brands are doing their part to make products as safe to use. And I hope that we're there with sustainability now, where I know we're not. It's probably slightly wishful thinking, but I'd like to think that people are expecting as much from reputable brands and reputable retailers. The products are safe to use. And with the same mindset, thinking they're also as sustainable as they should be. But it's really for the brands to be making those decisions on behalf of the consumers and making sure that what they get works well, is enjoyable to use, is cost effective and safe, of course. I've heard I think it was Eric Ryan from Method saying when they launched their brand, early on, they wanted to be the Trojan horse of sustainability, and it meant a lot to them. If they can get into people's homes through desirability and nice products, that it's important that once they're in the homes, then sustainability is working in the background. But it's important that people are buying products and using them because they love them. So I like that a lot.
No, that sounds great. No, I hadn't actually heard that before in terms of the safety element is now expected from consumers. No, that makes perfect sense. And perhaps we're not quite at that level, but we're not far off. So it's a really interesting point there. And just to round things off in terms of kind of the aggressive growth that we've seen, I mean, what next for Meadow? It seems like lots of innovation, lots of excitement. Is it just a case of looking ahead to the next 6 months, or do you have a 5-year, 10-year plan? How are you looking at? And then the second fold to that, the challenges involved. Are there any concerns about kind of the political sphere that we have, or in terms of regulatory issues? Caution notes as a business where you're at the moment.
So short term, long term, as we discussed, as a technology company, we're always looking forward in terms of how we can improve products tomorrow and how we can improve products over the next 5-10 years. And that's where we spend a lot of our time looking forward. I think in terms of medium and short term, the big sort of milestones for us are going to be first watching the success of SleeveLock when it comes to hospitality. But of course, watching the Meadow capsule expand into new categories and new markets. The new categories that we're really excited, we're going to see more things happening in food and beverage, in oral care. I think those are really exciting categories for us. In terms of geographies, we're going to be seeing products in the US. That's going to be a huge market for us coming up, but also in places like Australia, South America. So those are pretty immediate milestones that we're really looking forward to. And then in terms of, future steps, it's going to be the success of SleeveLock, but also new technologies on the horizon, potentially smaller formats that unlock even new cases. In terms of regulatory or political landscape concerns, I think we have the same as everybody else. The beverage can has been here for a long time, and it's seen a lot of volatility throughout the years, and it's quite a robust and future-proof material. It's also something that's made a lot onshore, which is what we love about it from a production standpoint and from a reverse supply chain point of view. It gets used, recycled, produced again, and a lot of those things happen in the country that it's consumed in. And that maybe makes it a little bit more robust in terms of global politics. But of course, nothing's immune to raw materials being shipped around the world. However, the beverage can seems to perform pretty well because of the fact that it's largely used, produced, and even recycled as near as possible to where it's used by the consumer. So that's where I think we see some benefits compared to, say, products that rely solely on being made overseas and require being on ships and sent around the world.
Great, no, that makes perfect sense. I think we've covered lots of good information, and it's been really great to chat again about the latest developments. And I think there's lots of exciting innovation. And once again, congratulations for the work you're doing within the sustainability metal packaging sphere and bringing some true innovation to the marketplace for consumers, but also for businesses as well. So congratulations, and it'd be good to again catch up in a few months' time to see how the latest developments and latest innovations at Meadow are developing. So Nick, it's been a pleasure as always, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Alex. Can't wait to talk to you again and update you on the new exciting stuff we're working on. Thanks again.